The neon hum from the open sign cast an eerie pallor over the empty parking lot outside. A chill ran through me, not from the night air, but a prickling sense of unease. I used to work the night shift at an old truck stop on a forgotten stretch of back road. They said the money was good, and a college kid never says no to extra cash. I should have listened to my gut though, the first night I saw its peeling paint and flickering lights. I arrived at dusk, the last dregs of sunlight fading to a bruised purple on the horizon. The other clerk barely made eye contact as he handed off the register keys, a silent warning hanging in the stale air. My first few hours were spent rearranging overpriced candy bars and wiping fingerprints from the dusty cooler doors. Long story short, by 10 p.m. I was bored and alone. The wind whistled through the cracks around the window frames, carrying a mournful melody that sent shivers down my spine. To distract myself, I dug out a textbook, the dense equations blurring into gibberish. My eyes kept flickering back to the murky shadows outside, the warped reflection of the gas pumps rippling in the glass. That's when I saw it. Not the shambling figure of a truck driver seeking refuge after too many miles on the road. No, this was something wrong. A shape crouched just at the edge of the security light, gangly limbs too long, head tilted at an impossible angle. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed to be staring right back at me. My breath hitched in my lungs. It couldn't have seen me, could it? I inched closer to the window, heart pounding. Yet, just as suddenly as it materialized, the shape vanished, leaving nothing but the swaying branches of a gnarled oak tree casting twisted patterns on the pavement. I tried to laugh at myself, chalk it up to jumpy nerves and an overactive imagination. But as the night wore on, the sense of being watched only intensified. Every creak of the building, every flicker of the fluorescent lights, filled me with a creeping dread far more chilling than any potential robber. My fingers trembled on the cracked phone screen as I contemplated calling someone, anyone, to break the stifling silence. The old rotary phone behind the counter seemed to mock me, a relic from an era when help was just a call away. No, that wouldn't do any good. What could they do from miles away? Then a scratching noise sent my textbook tumbling. It scraped across the linoleum floor, right by the entrance. My blood ran cold. There it was again, a skittering sound, claws against tile, circling me. I lunged for the baseball bat stashed under the register, a pitiful weapon against the unknown horror lurking just out of sight. The bell above the door jingled, a shrill, discordant shattering of the night. Not a customer, no casual trucker stopping for coffee. My gaze locked onto the warped reflection in the window. The shape was black, its silhouette pressed against the glass. It was so tall, so impossibly thin, fingers like gnarled branches tapping against the door. Fear propelled me. I burst from behind the counter, baseball bat gripped with white-knuckled desperation. The thing recoiled, a hiss escaping its impossibly wide mouth. In that split second, I saw its eyes, empty voids reflecting the sickly fluorescent light. I swung the bat. It was more out of a primal need to fight than any hope of hitting my target. It shattered the glass door, the shards raining down like crystal teeth. The thing shrieked. That sound pierced my skull, and then the thing bolted into the darkness. Trembling, I sank to the floor, surrounded by the wreckage. Dawn couldn't come fast enough. When the first rays of light finally broke through the night, I stumbled outside, desperate for the safety of daylight. The police came, of course. Broken glass, a terrified kid muttering about monsters. They didn't find any footprints, though. No evidence outside of my shattered story. I quit that day, the extra money no longer being worth it. Thinking back, I still don't know what I saw that night. A trick of the darkness, a hallucination from exhaustion, or something truly monstrous lurking in the forgotten places. But one thing is certain, the night shift never felt safe again. I always swore the creepiest part of working at our local ice cream shop was cleaning the milkshake machine at the end of the night. Turns out, there are way worse things than a few splashes of melted chocolate. Honestly, after what happened that one night, I'd take scrubbing sticky syrup over that kind of fear any day. Now don't get me wrong, most of our customers were regulars, neighborhood kids with sticky fingers, families out for a treat after dinner, even the occasional late-night date craving a hot fudge sundae. This whole thing started with someone new. I remember it was a Wednesday, One of those muggy summer nights when even the air conditioner couldn't chase away the sticky heat. Around 9 p.m., when the shop was dead empty, this woman walked in. She was odd, to say the least. Not like quirky and cute kind of odd. She had this intense look about her, eyes a bit too wide, a smile a few degrees too sharp. She ordered a double scoop of the black cherry, which in itself was a red flag since nobody ever ordered that flavor. But hey, customer's always right? She didn't leave after she got her ice cream, though. Instead, she lingered by the window, watching the street like she was waiting for something, or someone. After about 20 minutes, it was seriously weirding me out. But policy was to only ask someone to move along if they were being disruptive. She wasn't really doing anything. Finally, closing time rolled around, and with a jolt, I realized I was alone with this woman. I busied myself with wiping down counters, hoping she'd get the hint. But as I flipped the close sign, her eyes locked on mine and that smile spread wider. "Wonderful," she said, voice a little too sweet. "Now we can finally chat." Chat? I stammered out something about needing to lock up, but she was already walking towards the counter, her gaze fixed on me. "You have such a bright aura, dear, like a beacon in this weary old town." Okay, that was full-blown creepy. I started to edge towards the back door, but she was suddenly right in front of me, blocking the way. "They're waiting for you, you know," she said, her voice low and urgent. "Your true family. You belong with them." Family? Was this some cult thing? Desperation made me brave, or maybe just stupid. "Look, lady, I don't know what you're talking about," I snapped, louder than I intended. Her smile faltered, replaced by a look of almost disappointment. Then she stepped back. "Ah, but you will," she said. "Soon, very soon." And with that, she turned and walked out the door, disappearing into the shadows. I slammed the door shut and locked every bolt. Adrenaline thrummed through me like a drumbeat, yet even as I dialed the police with trembling fingers, a part of me questioned if I'd imagined the whole thing. The cops arrived, took my statement, and told me to call them if I ever saw her again. But I never did. For weeks I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched, the memory of that too wide smile haunting me. I even switched shifts to avoid nights altogether. Logically, I knew she was just some random weirdo, a blip in an otherwise normal life of waffle cones and sprinkles. But there's this tiny, persistent shiver in me that wonders, what if she was right? What if there is a world out there, just beyond the corner of my eye, waiting to claim me? My heart thrummed a dull beat against my ribs, matching the rhythmic squeaking of hundreds of tiny wheels. The night shift supervisor position at the gerbil farm wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and kept me from daytime socializing, which always suited me just fine. Mondays were rough though, inventory day. I'd spend hours shuffling between the giant cages, the rustling of sawdust and the faint smell of fur lulling me into a trance. That night was no different. My head was buried in the clipboard, tallying gerbil numbers with half my brain, the other half already drifting towards plans for my dingy apartment and a microwave dinner. But that's when I heard it. Not the usual gerbil chatter, but a shuffling, heavy tread. I whipped my head up, squinting down the long row of stacked cages. Nothing. I must be hearing things, the late hour playing tricks on my tired mind. Back to the count, the numbers dissolving into meaningless shapes as sleepiness crept back in. Then, unmistakably, footsteps again. They were closer this time. My stomach nodded with unease. No one should be here. The gerbil farm was out on the edge of town, and Jim, the owner, never risked an employee getting jumped on the way to their car at night. Hello? My voice cracked, betraying my nerves. Nothing but silence, broken by the nervous trill of some gerbil in the darkness. I inched towards the end of the row, flashlight beam cutting a shaky path in front of me. And there it was, a shadow in the dim light. It was too big to be an escaped gerbil. It was a hunched shape leaning against one of the cages. "Sir, you're not supposed to be back here," I called out, trying to sound more authoritative than I felt. The figure didn't move. Taking a deep breath, anger battling fear, I strode forward. Rounding the corner, the flashlight beam landed full on the intruder's face. A man, gaunt and wild-eyed, stared back at me. His lips pulled into a grin, too wide, too hungry. "Finally," he rasped, the word thick and sticky in the stale air. "Thought I'd have to hunt myself." Hunt? This wasn't a homeless guy looking for warmth. It was something far worse. He lunged before I could react, his hands outstretched like claws. I scrambled back, the clipboard slipping from my grasp. I tripped over a water bottle, landing hard, a desperate squeak escaping my lips. He chuckled, low, throaty sound. "Nice to see you share their spirit, little man. Makes this all the more satisfying." Panic jolted me back to movement. I kicked out, catching him in the shin with a satisfying crunch. His howl of pain echoed through the shed. I scrambled towards the back exit, fumbling with the rusty latch while his footsteps thudded closer. With a final yank, the door burst open. I tumbled out into the cool night air. The empty parking lot stretched out before me, and I wasn't a runner, but desperation turned my legs to pistons. Reaching my truck, I tore the keys from my pocket, the metal jingling like chains in my trembling fingers. Behind me, a roar, the splintering of wood. He was through the door. The truck's headlights flickered on, illuminating his hunched form as he shambled towards me. Engine sputtering to life, I threw it into reverse and slammed on the accelerator, the wheels spinning in loose gravel. The last image in my rearview mirror was him crouched on all fours, illuminated by the taillights, snarling at the widening distance. They found my clipboard a few days later, gnawed through. Jim didn't push me to come back. The look in my eyes was enough. They never caught the man. Some nights, after watching a little too much bad news on the late broadcast, I imagine him out there, slinking along the highways. And I imagine him as a shadow with gerbil eyes, forever hungry.